I would expose my midriff if we saw a 3D Kirby platformer tomorrow.
I'll do that with you.
Okay.
If that happens, we will both stand up and expose our middle areas. Yeah.
Yes. If we get a Kirby 3D platformer. Hey everybody, welcome back to Backlog Banter. I'm your boy Abram, joined as usual by Tucker Hazel, and we're here today to give our thoughts on the Nintendo Direct that just happened. And if you're wondering what that intro was, we made a promise in our predictions video that we would show our midriffs if a 3D Kirby got announced, and it did, and we'll talk about it. But the point is, if you want to know these sort of BLB continuity moments, you better be subscribed. To subscribe, hop down there right by the description. You'll see the link to do just that, and a link to ring the bell, and most importantly, Tucker, most critically, a link to join the Discord where everyone in this audience can talk to us about their thoughts on Nintendo's Direct just happened and anything else at all. But now that we have sexually aroused both each other and the audience, I think it's time to get into what I would say was a poor Direct, in my opinion.
I have been hearing your thoughts. We've been on this Discord ever since the Direct finished. We've been talking. He's been letting his thoughts flow slowly to me like a drip feed. And it's been a little dour. It's been a little sour. It's been a little down. But I just went through IGN's breakdown of everything that was announced in the Direct to sort of make sure things that I missed, I wanted to sort of organize them by what I thought was important or not, or interesting or not. And when you really do break down entry by entry what was shown in this Direct, I think it was a good Direct. It was not phenomenal. It was lacking in major Nintendo announcements, but everything that was there was interesting information. None of the trailers felt bad. Nothing was super down. We didn't have DC superhero girls being shown or something like that. And because of that, I'm very happy this happened. It feels like a solid, get some information out on upcoming games Direct, and that's about the middle line. I think it was good. I think that's what I'm getting at.
So I got a couple things in my head as usual.
Yeah.
3D Kirby in the Forgotten Land. We uploaded a reaction so sensual. It probably should have been on a different website than YouTube. I cannot wait for that game, right? So there were moments in here that really did speak to me, more than just that one, as we'll get into. But this to me really did feel like a filler Direct, because think about some of the critical information, Animal Crossing critical information.
Yeah.
All they did was announce that there's going to be information later.
Yes, true.
Smash Brothers, information later.
Yeah.
Nintendo Switch Online update, information later. Splatoon, information later. No release date, right? A more substantive trailer there compared to what the other things I just mentioned. But this really felt like a game of wait and see. It felt like, okay, it's time to have the Direct. This is pretty much exactly what I was talking about.
Sure.
When we had our video, again, you should be subscribed to keep up on the continuities. But when I was saying we don't need a Direct right now, because it really just felt like, especially because this was focused on winter, and most of this stuff is not releasing in winter.
True. Yes. But I personally think that's what makes this Direct more interesting, is that for some godforsaken reason, they decided to announce the tweet of this is focusing on games releasing in the last part of 2021. And that was just categorically not true.
Right.
Almost all the big announcements and trailers were for things that are coming next year. And I do think that makes it more interesting and more exciting. I mean, the things that you're talking about it is true that we didn't get information on all of things, but I don't think anything that was in here led me to believe anything negative about Nintendo's future. It was all just continuing momentum and giving us information as a holdover, for the bigger things that are coming, but it felt like a solid entry in continuing information momentum.
I think my problem with that is that this really did feel just like one big advertisement. Because ultimately my whole contention before was that not to end Directs, but to communicate as is necessary. And I think this was unnecessary communication. If the way Nintendo wants to convey the majority of their information, then convey it the way you want to convey it. Don't shove it retroactively into a Direct format where it doesn't make sense, where, oh shit, there's Brewster, there's the Roost. There it goes. No, you'll find about that later. Oh shit, here's Smash Brothers. There it goes. And I think Smash makes more sense to do, but take it away from you. Or, oh, you know what? What's the other one? N64 Genesis. You want to know more? No, you're not gonna learn more.
That's a really peculiar one, and I think is indicative of what you're saying, of this feeling a little bit confused. While I think it was solid, there are certainly elements of it that are like, why were these decisions made?
Right.
And I think, as I was saying, the N64 and Genesis thing is one of the most substantive and exciting announcements from this, and I do think we're going to talk about it quite a bit.
Yeah, definitely.
But the fact that it was 80% of the information and not the 20% that is core to the engagement of that experience of using it is very peculiar, and it, yeah. So I can agree with you in part, but I think it is important and exciting that we saw Bayonetta 3. Whether or not that is something that you and I are ecstatic about, that was a good trailer. It was an important trailer to finally see that game. And we finally have been able to see more of Splatoon 3 with more information on when we're going to be getting more information, and on what the story mode is about, and things of that nature. So while I do think they're confused, I don't understand how you can feel that this was unnecessary, because the things that were shown were, none of it was bad. It was all interesting, solid information.
It's interesting and solid. My contention is not that. My contention is that we spent a whole year learning that we can communicate this information in different ways. Mm-hmm. If the direct is just going to become a vehicle to say we're going to tell you things at other times, what's really the point? Because then it really is just an advertisement. Ultimately.
So would you have felt more comfortable with this if they hadn't done the Smash and Animal Crossing future things in this?
Well, then the direct would have been later. Then the direct would have been empty. So I think it's all circling the drain of why do we do this? Mm-hmm. Because again, it comes back to this. Let's think: Arceus, Splatoon, Breath of the Wild sequel, Mario, Sparks of Hope, Kirby, Bayonetta. Yes. That's 6 games. That's half of a year's worth of games. Yeah. So we're already getting through most of 2022's announcements, right? Mm-hmm. Why couldn't we have saved those for later when we could have had more to say about them? Why couldn't we have really blown up Bayonetta when it's time to give Bayonetta a release date? It's what we said. It's what we said earlier in the year about Breath of the Wild sequel. First, it was in March. Why did you bring it if you weren't ready to talk about it? Mm-hmm. Then it was in June. Okay, you're ready to talk about it, but you're not really ready to talk about it.
Sure. Yes.
And so much of this direct was you're telling me stuff that you're not ready to talk about. You're going to tell me in a couple weeks. So just tell me in a couple weeks. Like, why are we here?
Bayonetta, I would say I disagree on, because zero information about that game has been mentioned.
That's fair.
Ever, except for that it exists. So seeing a gameplay trailer, that was functionally the first trailer for that game.
No, that's a good point.
So, and that Splatoon is an interesting one, because as I was saying yesterday, Splatoon has a really unique rollout of its information, because there are so many little details that they like to give to their audience, and the Splatoon audience is very engaged in the Squid Research Lab things, and they're always giving you little bits and trailers and things. So I think getting this information out there early, whether or not that includes the important information of a release date, it was all information I wanted to see. As a Splatoon fan, that was awesome stuff. That was single player information, expansions on the lore, a couple new weapons, some new map types, stuff like that. Can't really ask much more out of a Splatoon trailer, especially when the game is releasing in 6 months or less, or whatever.
But
not 6 months or less. Sorry, no. I'm forgetting we're not at the absolute end of the year yet, but earlier next year, presumably.
But again, that comes back to my point of, if we're ready to give this information, if we're ready to show what the story mode is, if we're ready to show these concepts, why aren't you ready to tell me a release date?
Yeah.
You're giving me halves of a whole here. And that's just the way it felt entirely, because we got one new first party announcement, being Kirby. And then we got a lot of smaller reveals. And on the third party side, we also really didn't get that many announcements of scale. I think the Castlevania collection was an announcement of scale, but ultimately it was a lot of
Disco Elysium, Monster Hunter DLC, Yokitaro card game.
Okay, Monster Hunter DLC, sure. But again, all of those are coming later in the year, or they're small ports.
Yeah, but also later in the year. I think the fact that they announced.
Sorry, I meant later next year. For things like Yokitaro's game.
Oh, I guess that's true.
And Capcom's DLC. The Rise DLC is 9 months away, assuming that it launches in June, which is the very beginning of summer. Mm-hmm. So it's like, if you're going to bring me here to talk to me about games releasing this winter, talk to me about games releasing this winter.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen. And then if you're not going to do that, talk to me about things in a substantive way. And that didn't happen. It's not to say that this direct didn't have good moments and good announcements. Yeah. Because there were there, and I want to talk about them. But it's just a little bit peculiar when we're going to talk about N64 games, and then our whole conversation is probably going to be recontextualized by whatever the price point is and the release date and all of that in
next month,
2 weeks.
Yeah,
that's
such a strange choice.
We're left completely in the lurch by this entire direct.
Mm-hmm. No, I do think you're making really solid points here. I think where I come off of this and why I think I'm not as disappointed is I would rather have them be communicating at all. And in this format, that is a format that I and many others do very much enjoy. I think it got information across. It got me more excited for next year's games. It gave us information on games we didn't know about, even if they are slightly lacking. This is what I was talking about in our Should the Direct Happen video is I would rather them have multiple 60 to 70% hype directs and have nothing really feel out of place, nothing, just be solid informational directs, have those more often. So I do feel like I'm being communicated to. So there is a place for them to announce something like the Castlevania collection or something that is not going to get its own trailer, but is exciting to see among other things. I think this feels not ideal for what I want directs to be, but very solid for what I think they can be.
I guess it's just a fundamental difference of opinion, and ultimately neither of our perspectives is more correct than the other. But I think that in an era where Nintendo is very active on social media, and we have the direct is predicated on here's an announcement on social media, here's the direct itself.
Yeah.
Why couldn't that have happened for Smash Brothers? It would have generated just as much momentum. Why couldn't that have happened for Animal Crossing?
Yes, those are strange exceptions. We almost never get smaller direct announcements in larger directs, and I don't know why they would separate out Animal Crossing like that. Unless it's so substantial of an update that they want to give it a 20-minute block, which is possible, which would feel out of place in a thing. But I think maybe at that point, have a small sizzle reel trailer for what you're going to show, and then say, "Hey, if you want more information, come back in 2 weeks."
Yeah, it's like it's exactly what they did with Monster Hunter Rise when they first announced it. Here's a trailer for Rise. You want to learn more? Here's a Monster Hunter Direct.
No.
Right. And again, and that's different too.
Yes,
I think if they could have been, here's an Animal Crossing Direct directly following the show, great. But it just, the other thing is, talking about hype, let's just talk about the generation of hype for a moment. Our recording was completely fucking bungled. So
that was of no one's fault but our inability to use OBS properly.
Yes. But the point is, we uploaded 2 reactions, and ultimately what's left is loose change. There's a couple fun moments we could have pulled out that I'm going to try to.
Yes.
But that wasn't a direct that generated hype. And you're the hype man.
Yeah.
You know?
I am a hype man. I'm sort of a hype man. But I've started to realize more recently that I went through our discussion of what direct should be is that I do prioritize information and consistency over hype. I do think that that is more important, and having a direct that is supported by a couple of exciting moments, which I do think there were a handful in here, with solid, consistent information. That's what I would really like them to be doing, and that's what this did for me.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it just comes back to I don't feel like I don't think the information was delivered consistently. And ultimately, I think it might be most useful to just hop into some of the most key announcements.
Of course, yeah.
And talk. So you've got the list pulled up, courtesy of IGN. Maybe.
Well, I've got me the Tucker version of that, which is ranked by how interested I am in them.
Okay.
I want to start from the bottom then?
Well, what I was thinking might be useful just for the sake of the audience too, was to go by IGNs and just mention it, at least so we know, we kind of get a whole picture.
They also did it by like importance.
Oh, well then fuck them. Well, they're going to use yours.
Yeah, I mean, they want to say like, hey, Kirby and N64 games is coming at the very top of the article. So of course.
Right. Great point.
So if we're going from the bottom, we can speed run through a few things, which is Age of Calamity DLC. Makes sense to have that. It's not very exciting to either of us, but it was a totally fine trailer with information that I turned my brain off during because I'm not an Age of Calamity person, but it felt in place.
Yeah, I don't know why it's taking them so long to roll out this DLC, but ultimately, I don't know. I wasn't a big fan of the game to begin with. So.
The next one up is the Yokitaro card game. Yokitaro, big name, new IP, could be very different form factor. That was an interesting announcement. Does it excite me? No, I don't actually think that looks very fun at all, but it's an interesting and unique third-party announcement that certainly brought something to the Direct.
It's interesting that Nintendo got that. This game was not revealed here. It was actually revealed in like a press post.
Okay.
So this was not brand new, but this was the full first reveal. So I'm not gonna lie.
Next up, Monster Hunter Sunrise.
So here's the deal with that. Sunbreak, I think it was called.
Sure, that sounds more correct.
This is a huge deal for people who like Monster Hunter. My roommate I've never met anyone more interested in anything than he is with Monster Hunter. He literally, I thought he was gonna have a fucking stroke on that side of the room when he was watching that. So I'm glad for him. From what I understand from him, people have been wanting more content for Rise. The end game is lacking. They feel like Capcom was not delivering. I'll be curious to hear from him if he's willing to wait 9 months, if that seems reasonable.
Yeah,
before the next major expansion.
I mean, the only Monster Hunter information I've ever been like personally privy to was World and World's announcement, and that being okay, this is on more powerful hardware now. It's more accessible for multiplayer, and then of course that came out, people enjoyed it, and then Iceborne was announced, and I feel like that was similarly a little over a year after the release of the game, so it tracks in terms of pacing, and I don't think that this feels out of place. This feels like important information that'll certainly get people back into the Monster Hunter hype.
According to him, speaking on his behalf, what you said is exactly correct.
Yes. Okay. So, but again, this is continuing my trend as we're following up here, even though these are at the bottom, that this feels in place. This feels like important information. I'm glad they communicated to us. While it wasn't personally exciting for me, I'm not complaining that it was there.
My only thing about that though is the trailer was a complete nothingness.
Yeah, I don't know how they announced Iceborne, so maybe this is a trend.
But ultimately, even if it's a trend, is it a good trend? Just because something's happened in the past doesn't make it good. I think the trailer was completely vapid. And it wasn't, and that's Rathalos. I even know it was Rathalos. That wasn't even a new monster that showed off.
There was another one. They showed Rathalos, and then there was the next one with the weirder wings and stuff.
Next announcement.
Presumably that. Okay.
Probably a new mount. That's
next up is what I think is probably the most interesting third-party announcement of the whole direct, which is Disco Elysium, which is a game that people really love, and it got a pithy trailer with this is coming to Switch. This is what it looks like. It does look like it runs well. That's what I look for out of third-party announcements, especially of ports. Is this is a game that people really love. Having it portably, showing it in a direct, having people know that it's coming is great. That is a solid addition to a direct.
It feels like a better addition to an Indie World showcase, in my opinion. Okay. Especially because we were talking about it, maybe that last one lacking a little bit of a punch. I mean, there wasn't overabundance on ports before, but this is truly a small studio. This is the people behind Disco Elysium are by the book indie, unlike like a Tetris Effect, right? I think this would have been a great announcement there, because I do think that this gets overshadowed.
Yeah, today. Swap the places of Tetris Effect. And
I agree completely.
Swap the places, because Tetris Effect's still not coming out for 3 weeks or whatever.
Right.
So whatever. Strange. Next up is two more, which are more personally interesting third-party announcements, which is the Castlevania Advanced Collection, which had been leaked, but is very interesting, shadow dropping today, and Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic.
Wait, that's out today?
Yes, it is.
I didn't even pick that up. I didn't realize. That's a detail I missed. That's a great collection.
Yeah.
Because from what I understand, those games are very hard to find legitimate copies.
Yes. So, and it does look like Konami puts a lot of information and care into their collections. There's rewind, there's art, there's all the stuff you could want out of a collection. And this is a very exciting thing. It's $20, totally solid price for I think 4 games.
Yes.
That's something I'm very happy about. And I said Disco Elysium, but I think this is, even more interesting. This is a collection of games. This is really something that's interesting to have on not only modern hardware, but on portable modern hardware.
Yeah, I think that's a great announcement. And KOTOR for me, personally very exciting.
Yeah.
Again, I have fundamental issues with how KOTOR plays. So ultimately, having it on
ultimately you'll buy it and play it.
So ultimately I'll buy it and maybe not play it.
Okay, sure.
But I was thinking to myself that I would like to play through KOTOR before KOTOR Remake. And obviously, if I'm going to get into an RPG like this, Switch is going to be the best place to do it. So.
100%. That's exactly my thought process as well. They have...
Copier.
Oh no, he's copying me. I feel like a fucking 4-year-old now. But they do this almost every direct is a Star Wars port, and like an HD cleaned up Star Wars port. It looks good.
Fucking great by me, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. So continuing the obvious point is that if it's information you're excited about, it's good information. Going up a little more, this is my section where I'm like, this is the stuff they needed to talk about because these games are coming out still this year, which is Mario Golf update, slightly more substantial than we were expecting, but still very, very middling, but no indication that this was the final one. Would they indicate that? I don't know. Very confusing, but it's more Mario Golf Super Rush information, I guess.
It's my problem with this is that it's just reused assets. Those 2 courses are just.
I wasn't paying attention.
It looks like it's the Bowser Snow stuff from the campaign.
Sure.
and then one that literally looked like I thought it was in the game already.
Yeah.
And Koopa
I'll have to go back and rewatch those.
Koopa was probably just yoinked out of Mario Tennis Aces. Ninja, though, is a great addition.
That is great. That is a phenomenal addition. Alongside what they did in the base game, Charge and Chuck. I love it when they do the weird ones. I love when they do the weird ones. Mario Party Superstars. I don't know enough about Mario Party to know what was actually important there, but they did detail the game a little more, and we haven't heard anything about it since its reveal. So, solid informational trailer for a game that's coming out imminently.
Yeah, I agree. I think this game looks really fun. I think that 5 boards is abysmally low, especially when you're not creating the boards yourself. If you're just remastering the boards, you remaster all of the boards, or you remaster 5 boards from each of the 3 N64 games, because the boards are lifeblood of Mario Party.
Yes.
So bring this back. But nonetheless, I'm very excited for the game because I missed the N64 era Mario Party entirely.
There was another trailer for Metroid Dread. I don't actually know what was revealed. I mean, there was a bunch of different environments and stuff, but this game had such an overwhelming amount of trailers and information that I have not been keeping up with, admittedly, that I could not tell what this trailer was for. But having a Metroid Dread trailer in this direct makes a lot of sense. They're marketing this game in a really hard way, and I'm actually excited that they're doing that.
Yes, I really think this game is going to be huge for Nintendo. I mean, you don't need me to tell you and to reiterate that I'm excited. The reaction before it speaks for itself. I fucking love Metroid. I can't wait. This is information that I was trying to avoid, but it's information that I've kind of gotten in bits and pieces just from people on my Twitter timeline. Yes. So from what I understand, that looks like all stuff we'd seen before.
Okay. All right.
For what that's worth. Ultimately, just give the game marketing. It's out in 3 weeks. What more can you really announce?
This is what I wish the game's marketing had been. Though I think it's good that they're pushing it. I also am sort of a fan of there being just a couple of informational trailers. If we hadn't gotten 7 things in the middle, then this would have felt more substantial.
I mean, I disagree, because I think that beyond the perspective of, oh, here's a fun trailer that pops, the way they're doing it is how you get people interested in Metroid.
Sure.
As simple as that.
Yeah.
For the purposes of having there be more than 7 Metroid fans, I think having weekly information drops is really critical.
That's a good point. Now going up one more, we got information on the Mario movie. Now this feels out of place, but it's different and I think interesting for its own merit. I'm glad that they're pushing this on the level of, hey, we want to talk to our Nintendo fans about it. Announcing the cast and release date is important information for a movie, and there's never been anything like this movie in terms of collaboration between a game publishing studio and animation studio. So it was weird, but I'm happy that it was there because it was so different and so what the fuck.
This to me reeked of contractual obligation.
Possibly.
Because I mean, what they did is that should have been a Deadspin report. The Hollywood Reporter should have said that's coming and this is the cast. Yeah. And that was all perfunctory information that is only interesting because of the IP attached. It's not how movies roll out information. And in the absence of it, like if they had said, here's the cast and here's a trailer, then we're playing a different ballgame. But here's the cast and here's an ambiguous release date that, given the way that the climate of Hollywood is probably going to get pushed anyway. It felt like, okay, Illumination said, hey, Mr. Miyamoto, how many doubloons do we have to slide into your pocket to hop in the direct for a minute and say that fucking Chris Pratt is going to be
if we want to talk a little bit about how star-studded the cast is, but what the fuck, Chris Pratt is Mario? I don't know how I feel about that, though I'm sure I'm going to come down on, it doesn't really make a difference.
I think it's just the inherent problem of Mario is not a voiced protagonist. Yeah. And when he's Charles Martinet, and the fact that it isn't Charles Martinet, like here's the thing. The Mario movie could go in one of 2 ways, and I think they're clearly going in the way I don't want it to. I think you could have made a really earnest animated film where Charles Martinet was the protagonist and it was very faithful to the source material. Or you go this way, which is like the Sing route. If you're familiar with Sing, where here's an enormous star-studded cast and it's all about wacky comedy. Yeah. And I think that's the way we're going. And to me, I think that sounds really repellent. However, I am more than willing to give it an open mind because I haven't even seen a trailer yet. So it'd be very close-minded of me to say that, to write it off immediately. But I think it's going the completely incorrect direction.
It's going the direction that makes sense, honestly. This is very marketable. This is very holy shit, there's a Mario movie and it's appealing to the exact demographic that they know they're appealing to Illumination's demographic that they have worked to cultivate over the years with Despicable Me and Minions and Despicable Me 2 and Despicable Me 3.
They're appealing to the Mario Kart Tour audience. And what I mean by that is they're appealing to the person who knows who Mario is and has a vague interest in Nintendo, maybe because they owned a Wii and now they play Nintendo's mobile games. So they don't give a fuck at all about Charles Martinet. They don't care that Mario is talking. They know Chris Pratt and they know Mario, and they stuck them together. So
the one thing I would say though is I'm gonna pitch this, and I want to see how it strikes you in terms of interest in this film and what it could mean. I'm actually more interested that this is not faithful to the source material, and they are sort of making its own thing, because Mario is a series that is, of course, very creative, very iconic, very important, but it's pretty static on the whole in terms of elements that they introduce. So introducing a voiced cast with a more comedic tone and probably a different style of world and a different kind of adventure, seeing how important and influential this movie is could help spin Mario into a more interesting future direction. If the games start to take elements from this, having a game where Mario is voiced, I don't necessarily know what it could mean, but there is potential there for this to influence the games and change it up a little bit. Finally have breathe a little bit of fresh life into the Mario series.
I mean, I think you're triggering my fight or flight response by saying that. And there's a couple of things I want to say in response. The number one thing is, I think in concept, what you're saying makes a lot of sense. And ultimately, I've got no thoughts again until I see the trailer, because I'll need to know what does what you're saying in concept, which I'm pretty sure is exactly what they're doing. What does that actually mean to an audience member? But also, I don't think Mario is stagnant. I think Super Mario Odyssey was an excellent counterpoint to that. You know, there is so much to do in the Mario universe that does not involve betraying what Mario is. And I don't mean to say betraying like, oh, it's like an affront to me as a fan. But I think inherently what they're doing with the source material here is betraying it, but ultimately it might be something interesting in the context of film. If that starts to come back into games, then I think we might have a problem, because Nintendo proves again and again that they can reinvent Mario.
No, I think what I'm going for mostly is this being a change in tone. Is because Mario is a very consistent series in terms of tone, whether the locale changes or the side characters change. It's pretty static in its tone and its overall concepts. Of course they will change the gameplay. They'll put them in new locations, but having voiced characters, having, hopefully new characters of some sort, changing Mario in some way, I think could be interesting. I'm not selling this the way it is in my mind, but I do think this could be exciting for the future of Mario.
I want to just put a pin in this conversation, because ultimately I feel like I'm operating completely in the absence of data.
Yes, 100%.
But I think what you're saying is compelling, but that is predicated wholly on execution. So,
I mean, I would love to see like a Mario adventure game with a story and voice acting and stuff. I know that's maybe subverting the source material or whatever, but I think Mario's flexible enough, and that would be very unique for the series, even though the series has done fucking everything 6 ways to Sunday.
Yeah, definitely. Again, just show me a trailer.
If we go one more up, this comes with a caveat, because we're getting substantial Smash and Animal Crossing information soon. We talked about that earlier. Very strange.
Yes.
I guess I'm kind of happy that they're going to have their own space. Now we get to have 3 separate things to react to and 3 separate times of the year to be talking about Nintendo games again, which is nice. But announcing it here and just saying, wait, was definitely strange.
Yeah, I mean, I shared my thoughts on that at the top of the video when we were talking about the direct on the whole. I tweeted out this photo this morning saying, I hope I see this man tonight. And I did. This T-posing Brewster that I found off Google Images.
Good.
So I'm happy about that, but ultimately we need a substantive update. So I think this direct has a lot to prove. And the fact that they have 20 minutes of stuff to say, it makes me hopeful.
Yeah, of course.
And Smash is Smash. And that has its own mountain of expectation, and that mountain will be climbed soon.
Sakurai he's not very fit, but I think he's fit enough to climb the hill that he's made.
I think he's actually sickly, and I think he needs a vacation.
That's probably also true. Next up is sort of the double hitter of Bayonetta 3 and Splatoon 3, which we sort of talked about at the beginning. I think these were both very good trailers. I'm interested, at least excited for one, interested in the other for both these games. They're clearly some of the titles that Nintendo's gonna be leaning on pretty hard next year. In a great way though.
Yeah. So for Bayonetta 3, I played Bayonetta 2 earlier this year and I absolutely loved it. Yes. I mean, I fucking adored it. So I'm quite excited. I think the trailer looked very good. I am aroused by Bayonetta's new design. And I like the idea that the astral chain dog is there. I'm curious what that means. I suggested in the completely borked reaction that maybe it's a shared universe. But I think that game looks good. Again, I would have wanted a date because it looks kind of far along.
Yeah.
And because we've been in the absence of Bayonetta information for so long that just tell me. But
yeah, and me not knowing honestly almost anything about Bayonetta, and I'd like to play those games and I have access to them, but I want to play them before 3. But that's the kiss of death. Saying that I'd like to means I'm probably not going to. But it was an interesting trailer. It was finally seeing the game, and I felt like that was one of the more substantial things of the direct.
No, definitely. I mean, I think it looks fucking awesome. I genuinely can't wait to play that.
And I'm glad they're putting the weight on it that was their closer. They're excited for this game. They're going to push it alongside their other tentpole titles, and it's big enough and important enough to them that was the closing of their direct.
I mean, on a quality standpoint, Bayonetta 2 is better than almost anything released on Wii U, in my opinion. So I'm really glad that Nintendo is the reason Bayonetta is alive.
Yes.
So the fact that now that they're really hammering 3 home is great.
Miyamoto gave Bayonetta mouth to mouth.
Fucking keep it. I was gonna say something really gross. So Splatoon 3. Splatoon 3. I think it looks good. I think that was a nothing trailer, frankly. I think it looks good, but I think it was pointless. Because we saw maybe we saw like fucking. Did you ever have those toys as a kid with like the gooey guys with the long stretchy arm stick them to shit? That's what it was, and it looked cool. But ultimately, again, I understand, as you were saying, that they like to do the squid research. I love the fucking guy who comes out and poses like the member of the game. He's very charismatic. But
he's not. But I think that's why it's funny.
Yes, but this is Splatoon 3. We get it by now. And Splatoon, it's arguably one of if not my favorite Nintendo franchise taken as a whole. Splatoon. Yeah. So what I want to know is, how is this new? And what they were is like, you'll find out. And for me, that doesn't do a whole lot. I think the story mode looks great.
Yeah, it looks like an upgrade.
It looks like an upgrade. I don't know if it looks better than Octo expansion, which had an amazing campaign. Yeah. What I wanted concrete details, because those areas looked open. Is this like, do we have like hub? Because there's always been a hub world, but do we have like bigger hubs, bigger levels? Is it open world? Like in the initial trailer, we see the perspective change to 2D as your inkling is, walking underneath like the inverted Eiffel Tower. So sure, I don't mind questions being raised, but if the game is releasing within a year, I wanted more.
Sure. I mean, the crazy part about that is they did show a lot of this game.
They did show a lot.
They showed a bunch of different things that if you break down each particular shot, there's new information in each of them. Of course, new maps, new guns, new clothes, new outfits, new characters in the background, lots of information on whatever the crazy lore is of mammals coming back and Callie Marie and Captain Cuttlefish and all sorts of stuff going crazy. This game, I think, is very interesting on a lot of levels. Of course, we're both very big Splatoon fans, and what I saw today confirmed that they are doing a bunch of stuff with this game. It is not just a continuation. I think that it does seem a little more ambitious and creative, but it was not a lot of concrete information.
See, I'm not sure I agree with that, and that's what I'm looking for, because a lot of that trailer was saying, here's Splatsville, but we saw Splatsville, and then in Splatsville you fight in 4v4 turf matches.
True.
So like we know all of this, and the story mode I think was obviously the highlight of this trailer.
That's what I'm focusing on.
Yeah, but even that is like, we've had great Splatoon campaigns. What makes this a new great Splatoon campaign, right? So, I mean, again, I think the game looks really awesome. I can't wait to play it. Right? It's Legends Arceus and Splatoon 3 right here for me in terms of hype, but you gotta communicate a little bit more. Again, it feels like we want a trailer for Splatoon, but we're not ready to tell you more about it.
Yeah.
So.
Sure. And maybe I'm overstepping my boundaries here, but I think the second most interesting thing in this whole direct was the expansion pack for Nintendo Switch Online, including I think 9 at launch, N64 games, and Sega Genesis games.
Yeah. Do you happen to have a list of the games?
Of the games?
Yeah.
Of the games. Yes, I've got it.
Okay, perfect. So by the way, so it's this, and then of course Kirby's, and there's nothing else to talk about, right?
Yes, that's the final stuff. And of course, there was a bunch of other sizzle reels and things, but there were a lot of games that I was not really familiar with.
The only one I want to shout out, really sentence long, is ActRaiser Resurrected or whatever.
Yeah.
Fucking bizarre that Square Enix to bring ActRaiser back, but that's a really beloved game. I'll check out the eShop price on that. I didn't think it looked especially good.
No, I didn't think either.
I think it's
I know nothing about that. I honestly know nothing about that game. I thought it was Final Fantasy. You thought it was Fire Emblem. Both of those would have been more interesting whenever the fuck Activator it is. But okay. I hope people enjoy it. I hope it's good. And I'm sure it was a good announcement. But because I'd probably heard the name Actraiser before, but I couldn't. If you had told me that, I probably been like, shmup, beat 'em up, maybe.
Yeah, that's
hack and slash. Who knows? And I still don't know what the game is. Is it 2D sword combat, but there's an overworld? Whatever.
It's partially like city building god game and partially 2D action platformer with RPG elements. I think it's a really interesting concept. But Tucker, we got 2 big announcements to really fucking thrust ourselves into.
Yes.
And I agree with your order entirely, by the way.
Yeah. You think my ranking from top to bottom seems pretty reasonable, or bottom to top rather?
I would have put Bayonetta 3 above this NSO dump. That's the one thing I would have changed.
Okay. Well, too bad.
Because it was also the closer to the show. I think that communicates. Triangle Strategy is releasing March 4th. We didn't get a name, which is weird. They've got a release date. I really think it's going to be called Triangle Strategy.
No.
I really think it's going to be called Triangle Strategy.
No, I'm saying no because I think you're probably right.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see.
It doesn't really matter at that point, but oh my god, that was so fucking stupid. But that is a pretty substantial, I guess, addition to the beginning part of the year for Nintendo's releases. So
I think that's an exclusive Square Enix tactical RPG. When's the last time we had a tactical RPG and it's exclusive to Switch? Like that's a big deal. No, but a tactical RPG.
Yeah, Fire Emblem.
No, I'm from Square Enix. When's the last time Square Enix made a tactical RPG?
I don't know anything about Square Enix's tactical RPGs.
I think it's been like since the PSP days.
Okay.
The point is that's a big deal. But now it's N64 time.
Yeah, it is.
And again, I feel uncomfortable talking about it because I think that the most critical information is absent.
Yeah.
There's things I want to say about the game library and that rollout.
Yeah, which is what we can talk about now, so we will. Yeah.
But it's underwhelming. I think this is underwhelming.
It's interesting. I think when you combine the launch lineup and the confirmed to be at edition games for post-launch, that's a good library. That's what we expected, and there's some surprises in there. Yeah. But what is at launch is not a lot, and it's interesting that they would confirm more stuff is coming and show us what they are, but they're coming at an undisclosed time in the future. So this is just like this is like when you go to plug in, let's make a retro analogy. You go to plug in your old console, but all of the fucking wires are fucking tangled together. Okay. That's where my brain is right now on this. So I got to take it just piece by piece because this is a lot to process. Yes. 2 libraries. Yes. N64 Genesis. Yes. The Genesis edition does not matter at all to me. No. And the reason it doesn't, it's not because it's very interesting Nintendo and Sega are partnering this way. Mm-hmm. But when you contextualize it against the fact that I think most, if not all of those games are in the Sega Genesis Classics collection. Yeah, I think so. Then what's the point? Mm-hmm. Sure, you get them for free, but ultimately, if this is going to become a stand-in for a virtual console, I want them to offer access to games I didn't have access to before. Sure. And ultimately, if you can buy the Sega Classics collection on sale for like $15 or $20, and you start to extrapolate out price-wise, maybe that's a better deal. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, what is that adding in terms of value? I think it's adding very little. Well, the reason I can agree and disagree at the same time is that this is a surprise in the way that nothing else for Nintendo Switch Online ever has been. The track record of every 2 years adding one next-gen Nintendo console was pretty obvious. Of course, N64, very exciting, and we'll talk about that. But we weren't expecting anything else except maybe Game Boy. We didn't get that. And of course, those games aren't available. The Sega Genesis games are, but it just feels like a more interesting addition on top of it. This seems like a bonus, and for that reason, I'm glad it's there. I wasn't expecting a surprise out of the games that they were announcing to be added to Nintendo Switch Online, and this was certainly a surprise.
It was a surprise, but it wasn't a substantive surprise, because if they had been N64 and Game Boy, there we go. Those are two new libraries of games coming to Switch. This is one new library of games, as we're going to talk about, and then games that are already available on Switch. Some of them, the ones you want to play the most, like Sonic Adventure 2. Dreamcast would have been awesome, but that obviously no. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 available standalone. All these other games available in collections and such.
Sure. Yeah.
Even like the Sega Beat 'em Up collection, I think has Streets of Rage in it. And like then there's the Sega Classics collection. The point is these games exist already. And to me, what are we gonna do? Wait another 2 years to get Game Boy and fucking Game Gear, you know? What I wanted to see was, okay, if you're gonna charge me more, charge me more. Charge me $60 a year, and we're getting N64 and Game Boy, and then we're getting Game Boy Advance. And the roadmap is not you're getting Majora's Mask. The roadmap is you're getting Game Boy Advance. See what I mean? I just think those are very different tenors. And if you're going to start making this thing cost more, you need to commensurately increase the value. And I think, unfortunately, in an ecosystem where you can, as much, even though I don't do it, you can very easily emulate the games, and I can't pretend emulation doesn't exist. And you're going to increase the service while having still the fucking voice chat disaster and all of that information. I just don't think this was good enough.
Yeah, I mean, for the games that are being included, if you want me to go through the N64 games.
Yeah, because I want to talk about this, because some of them are very exciting.
Ocarina of Time, Mario Kart 64, Starfox 64, Sin and Punishment, Dr. Mario 64, Mario Tennis 64, but Mario Tennis, Yoshi's Story, and whatever the fuck Winback is.
That was the one.
And Mario 64, obviously.
I had never heard of Winback.
But why not? Sure.
Do you want to hit a quick Google on that? Because I'm curious, even perfunctory information like a developer.
Winback third-person shooter game developed by Koei's Omega Force studio in 1999.
Omega Force makes the Musou games.
Yes, I do.
So I think that's a good starting lineup. I think it would have been a great starting lineup if we had just gotten the additional games coming later, being Majora, Kirby 64, Banjo. Was there another one?
Pokemon Snap, Mario Golf, Paper Mario,
F-Zero X. Okay, so a shit ton
combined. That's a very good lineup. That's almost as much as you can expect from N64. There's some strange omissions. Why do they only have one rare game? Not Donkey Kong 64, not Diddy Kong Racing. We're of course still missing Pilot Wing 64, Wave Race 64. But on the whole, those are pretty small losses to take when you're getting the lion's share of the Nintendo first party N64 library.
And I think that's probably why they split it in half, because they need to have stuff to drip feed. But I don't think that's a good model. I think we've learned with the NES and SNES libraries that's not a good model. It just makes people frustrated, makes them upset. If they had said, here's the price increase, here is that stack of 20 N64 games, and you're getting nothing else for 6 months, but in 6 months you're getting GBA, boom, that's a done deal. But if I'm waiting like 4 weeks and I get F-Zero X, by the way, F-Zero X I think is the best in the series, so I can't fucking wait to have that on Switch.
I'll finally be able to try it. I was actually wanting to have you mail me your copy of F-Zero X so I can give it a try, but now that is entirely unnecessary.
Yes, but so it just, I don't like the rollout still, but the N64 is either my first or second favorite Nintendo system, which I know invalidates everything I've said online ever. But I love this library. Starfox 64, people know, is my favorite game of all time. Sin and Punishment is up there too. And having Ocarina, having Mario 64 is great. I think this is a good lineup. I just think that when you contextualize it against the larger ecosystem it's launching into, it's not as good of a lineup anymore. But I'm still very excited.
Because I'm about what?
Because I still have one more thing I want to say.
Yes.
These games having online support, this is when the idea comes to its natural conclusion, Tucker Hazel. Because you and I can dick around in Super Mario Kart and have our eyes fall out of our head, or we can play Dr. Mario NES and till the cows come home. But when you tell me we can play Mario Kart 64, but critically Starfox 64 online multiplayer, you gotta be fucking kidding me.
Yes, that the X factor of the fact that even back to NES, these games have online multiplayer is pretty insane. And I think that's why this library is not more substantive than it should be, is because they are putting actually a surprising amount of effort into making sure these have rewind, they have online support, they do fit into that designed library and stuff. It's exciting. And especially because local multiplayer was obviously much more started in the N64 era. I'm actually excited to give a substantial amount of time to every game in this library, which is not something I could say to the SNES or NES games.
I mean, Tucker, Starfox 64 is my favorite game of all time. Mm-hmm. It'll probably never be beaten.
Yeah.
But I have gotten to play the multiplayer so infrequently. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, my favorite game of all time is going to be given genuinely new life on Switch. That's huge to me.
Yes. Yeah.
Fucking who cares about the rest of my critiques? On the most personal level, my favorite game of all time, I get to play with you. I get to play with people in my Twitter timeline. I mean, what more can I really ask for as a fan?
I would love to do N64 multiplayer streams.
Some
Mario Kart 64 battle mode online.
I've actually never played Mario 64. Mario
Kart 64? No,
Mario Kart 64, I've never played it. That's one of the few Mario. It might be the only Mario Kart game I've never played. No, say the fucking arcade one. I haven't played it. Shut up.
I have.
That's pretty cool, actually. I've always wanted to.
It's got fucking Donkun in it.
The drum man, right?
What's it?
The Tatsunoko versus Capcom?
No, what's that fucking game called?
Taiko no Tatsujin.
Taiko no Tatsujin, yeah. But yes, he's in there, which is fucking strange.
But Tucker, you want to talk about a fucking dream come true?
You want to talk about literally a game that I have been percolating in my brainicle for many a moon. Holy shit, Kirby in the Forgotten Land may be an underwhelming logo and name, but that doesn't fucking register on the Richter scale here of excitement. Oh, he's going shirtless for it. Okay, fine. I'll go shirtless too. We exposed our midriffs at the beginning of the episode, but 3D Kirby deserves a little more celebration.
Here's the deal, Tucker. Here's the deal. Kirby is one of my favorite Nintendo series. I have loved Kirby as long as I've understood the concept of love.
Wow.
Okay.
So it probably took like 2 years ago or something like that.
Right. For the last 9 months.
Because of your incredibly stunted social development.
Yes. Since last Friday, I've really understood what love meant. But no. Kirby is one of the first Nintendo series I fell in love with. And I've loved it my entire life. But what do we say every time a Kirby game comes out, Tucker?
Why isn't this a 3D platformer?
Why isn't anything new happening?
Yes.
Why is there nothing new happening? And then they give us Blowout Blast.
Yes.
And we say, okay, that's an idea. Then Blowout Blast lasts for 45 minutes. And you think to yourself, what the fuck just happened here? And then you play Kirby Star Allies, Tucker. And you're on a 3D overworld map. But that's all it is. And there's nothing to do on the overworld map.
No.
So why is it even 3D? And you get to the final boss, Tucker Hazel. You get to the final boss.
You're moving in a 3D arena. You're fighting this giant guy. It's fucking awesome. That's the best part of the game, bar none.
And it lasts for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And I ask myself, Tucker, when is Kirby going to evolve with me? This is not what I looked like when I was 4 years old playing Kirby on my DS and my Game Boy Advance.
You
Tucker.
are in 3D. Kirby was 3D. Never in 3D until now.
Kirby is in 3D now. This is fucking enormous.
This is interesting.
This is Nintendo doing something that is not just the bare minimum with a sequel. This is them going. This is we're back to the Breath of the Wild era, back to the Odyssey era, back to all this shit, back to when the series were actually evolving. This is not iterative. This is evolutionary.
Yes,
and the game looks awesome.
It looks phenomenal. I'm very excited for it. I've always been wanting Kirby in 3D. Yes. I think Kirby's a bad series. I think almost all the games in it are underwhelming. They're poorly designed. They're really not fun. I play them anyway because I'm a fucking masochist. But I've always thought that there's so much potential in the world of Kirby and its designs and its mechanics in terms of copy abilities and placing all that in an environment that are actually engaging to explore, which just does not apply to 2D Kirby platformers, has always been a dream of mine. I always thought finally Kirby could be interesting, and I think it will. I think Forgotten Land is very exciting. I hesitate to apply that excitement of finally Nintendo doing more than the bare minimum because this should have happened 15 years ago. Kirby should have jumped to 3D in at least the GameCube era. No, fuck you. I'm not counting the dumb fucking racing game. People like, what's it called? Fucking
Air Ride.
People like cool. The game. Nothing gets Air Ride, but it's not a Kirby 3D platform. Of course, it's not. So it still does, to a degree, feel like, yes, this should have happened, but it didn't, and now we're finally getting it. And I think that's why it's very exciting.
Yes.
So it's two realities sort of meshing. Like, yes, this is true, but and this is now adding to the list of my most anticipated games of next year.
I made a deliberate obfuscation of the truth before, because it's Pokemon Legends Arceus, Splatoon 3, Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Kirby more exciting than Splatoon 3.
Absolutely.
I think actually I'm on the same path. Yeah. Though I'm not a fucking wiener. Breath of the Wild 2 is all above Kirby. But yeah, no, this is insanely exciting. And wow. What we have confirmed for 2022 is a bonkers lineup.
Tucker, I'm telling you right now, I was going to tell you this before we record. I was going to tell you after. I'm going to fucking tell you on camera. Tomorrow, we're going to record a video about ranking our hype for the 2022 slate.
Sure.
Because now we've got 8 games or so.
Now we've got games.
Nintendo Switch has games. But Tucker, last thing I just want to say on this point is sometimes I lie awake at night. Can't sleep, right? I'm fucking sitting there in bed. I'm thinking to myself, yes, Nintendo is the king of the 3D platformer, but they only make Nintendo Mario 3D platformers.
Yes.
There's a Donkey Kong one, but they didn't even make it.
Yeah.
Nintendo owns the 3D platformer genre with one franchise.
Yes, it did.
This will be the second Nintendo 3D platformer franchise.
Yes.
And that's very exciting.
That is very exciting.
That is enormous.
When the fuck did N64 come out in 94? Does that sound right?
No, that doesn't sound right at all. No, that's certainly not 93. It's like 95 or 96.
Okay, well, I'm close. Regardless, it's been longer than our lifetime. Yes. That Nintendo has only been making 3D Mario games. They've never branched out into other platforming franchises. Imagine a new IP 3D platformer from Nintendo. That's one of the most exciting possible things that the gaming industry could put out, at least in my opinion.
1996.
Okay, well, I was pretty close, considering I wasn't alive and I don't really care about the N64. But oops, I can't let that slip. But this is just below that of Nintendo actually making a new 3D platformer game. Yeah,
I agree. And Tucker, now the pressure's off Donkey Kong, because now it can just be an amazing country game, and I'd still love it. Country's my favorite 2D platformer series,
and it probably will be.
It probably will be.
It probably will be.
But who really gives a hoot? Because we were joking in our predictions videos, like we don't need an Odyssey 2 because we're gonna have a 3D Kirby game, a 3D Donkey Kong game. It's like this, neither of those are gonna happen. But here we are.
Mm-hmm. And imagine if it is a 3D Donkey Kong game. I don't even want to get into it.
I don't. Yeah. It's
coming around to my conclusions on this. We talked through each thing, and I think I feel pretty confident in my analysis from the beginning that all the information shown here got me very excited for next year. It brought up information for more franchises. Yes, there were caveats to things, but this is a 60% hype direct. It was solid. It got me information. It got me a couple new announcements. And that's really what I want out of direct. And I'm glad that they're continuing their path of having consistent communication. And I'm excited for the Smash thing. I'm excited for the Animal Crossing thing. Those will tie us over until early next year when we get another direct. I'm very happy with the pacing of their communication now.
I mean, I said what I had to say. I think the direct was bad. I think what you're saying is a just different reading. I think what you're saying is maybe you disagree, but as valid as what I'm saying. I think you're well. I just think there's two sides of the coin. I just think what are you looking for out of Nintendo right now? Mm-hmm. And for me, if you're looking for games, they had them prior to this direct. That's my thing. This direct for me really vindicated my perspective on Nintendo not only being able to communicate in different ways that are more apt, but understanding that because they have smaller direct schedule now.
Yeah.
I really think that if we had this same information, but it was a partner showcase and then a Smash Direct and an Animal Crossing Direct, mm-hmm. and you saved Splatoon and Kirby for January, you wouldn't even have to say Bayonetta. That Platinum's a partner. That could have ended the partner showcase.
That's true.
You could have saved Bayonetta. You're in my head now. You could have saved 3D Kirby and Splatoon trailers for a January presentation. And then we could have had, carrying us to the rest of the year, banger partner showcase, Smash character reveal, Animal Crossing reveal. And then in the weeks we didn't have those, you could have had an exciting trailer for Mario Superstars, whatever, and an exciting trailer for the N64 Online when they were ready to actually give us these details we need to properly evaluate the addition to the service. It just felt like my backpack. There's so much shit in this bag. There's literally this like trash in here. My passport is in this bag. It's a complete. It's all these things that deserve to be housed in their own locations where they'd be utilized more effectively. The director's my bag.
Clean your fucking bag.
On that note, this has really been a manic video.
It's been all over the place, but I do think we got our thoughts out, and I think that was most important.
I agree, and people have been asking for another shirtless piece of BLB content ever since the DC rank off. So you can thank Kirby, thank my boy King Dedede.
We'll see you guys in another video. Thanks for watching.
That's his last one, and there'll be more BLB videos. Other than but just forget when I said that we're recording a video tomorrow, and forget about our weekly shows. And this is it. Do we have to bury midriffs to begin?
Yes, we do. Ready?
Right. Yeah.
Hello,
hey, everybody.
You want to do the intro?
Sure. All right, we got bury midriffs again.